Joining us now is Alex Ryvchin from the Executive Council of Australian Jewry. Alex, thank you for joining us tonight. The rally was against protest laws and to, quote, abolish the Jewish lobby. That's you. So how do you take that, and what's your reaction to this protest being allowed to go ahead?
Well, it's disgusting to have self-avowed, self-defined neo-Nazis outside our House of Parliament and to have them in our midst at all and brazenly campaigning and advocating in the way that they are. They're recruiting in plain sight. And these are people, let's break it down what they actually believe in. They believe in race war. They believe in the extermination of their racial enemies based on systems of racial hierarchy. They believe in the overthrow and the abolition of democracy. These people are antithetical to everything that is good and great about this country, and they need to be contained. Now, it's easy to dismiss these people as being a few dozen losers, and they are losers of the lowest ebb. There's no question about that. But they still have the potential to cause immense harm. And we've seen around the world people who join these movements, who are drawn to the notion of race war and violence, they often peel off and commit acts of violence in their own name to devastating effect. So the fact that these people are really degenerates of the highest order doesn't mean that they shouldn't be treated as a great threat, because they are. But at the same time, we need to be careful because they thrive on the infamy, they thrive on the publicity. So we need to treat them as the appropriate threat that they are, but we can't downplay it either.
Alex, what is to be done here? No arrests have been made, and this is the specific problem that police have. Did they break our current laws in any way, in your view?
Well, look, we can't know that definitively until the laws are tested. And as you spoke about in the introduction, there are new laws in effect in New South Wales which make it a criminal offence to incite racial hatred. And this would be, on the face of it, a pretty good test case, I would think. But we have every faith in the Department of Public Prosecutions and the police and the government that they'll be sitting down, reviewing the footage, reviewing the laws and making a determination. Ultimately, this is about sending a signal to society that this sort of hatred will never be normalised, never be accepted, and it's about keeping Australians safe. And we have to also understand that we have to deal with the precursors that allow the situation to unfold. Neo-Nazis, they're very opportunistic in the way they operate. They look for fractures in society, they look for declines in social cohesion and harmony, and in the last 2 years, with the soaring rates of anti-Semitism, with the total normalisation of anti-Jewish conspiracy theories, with the week-on-week aggressive protests, that has created fertile ground for these groups. So we have to deal with them, but also the circumstances which allowed them to arise.
Alex, the New South Wales Premier Chris Minns has suggested that police might need more powers to deal with protests like this. Do you agree?
Well, again, I think we need to first look at what the existing laws are and what the existing powers are and whether they're satisfactory to curtail and contain this threat. And as I've said, we have confidence that this process will be taking place. There's also a process that has to take place to determine why this was allowed to happen in the first place, why they were allowed to launch an application to protest outside state parliament deliberately intended to menace the Jewish community, how that was allowed to go ahead. But again, we have faith that the processes will be carried out appropriately and that this won't happen again. There's too much at stake for our country and for our society. Too much harm has transpired in the last 2 years, and we can't allow it to keep escalating in the way that it has been.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.